Eating in Public was founded in 2003 in Hawaii by Gaye and Nandita Sharma to nudge a little space outside of the state and capitalist systems.
Following the path of pirates and nomads, hunters and gatherers, diggers and levelers, we gather at people's homes, plant food gardens on private and public land, set up free stores and other autonomous systems of exchange, generally without permission. Unlike Santa and the state, we give equally to the naughty and the nice. We don't exploit anyone's labor nor offer any tax deductions. We are, in all of the word's various definitions, free.
All right.
Okay.
So maybe we start off with where we are. Tell us about this weedy patch.
This is a vacant lot 3 doors from my house, so I come here all the time to get food for dinner and breakfast, really. It's one of my favorite spots in the neighborhood. It's just beautiful.
What kind of weeds are in this patch?
As I look around, there's so many weeds, and I don't know that many. I don't know them all. So ivy gourd is the vine that we see all around us. Now we've picked them all. This is ivy gourd. And oxalis is the little ones that look like clovers. This one.
This is the burst of citrus.
Yes. This is the Chinese violet, which I have to warn you, it doesn't taste very good raw, but it's pretty nice cooked. You know, I really like the everyday, the ordinary, the banal. I really have a distaste about spectacular things. I don't do holidays. Yeah, so I think that aligns with the way that I see the world. But there's this violence about the invasive species rhetoric that is very nationalistic. It's about like territorial purity, and it's often genocidal, like they just want to kill everything. So, and there's this confusion that everything that's not native becomes to be understood as invasive. And I think that's not only incorrect, but it's dangerous in these political times when all over the world there's increasing antagonisms against people that are seen to, not belong. You know, isn't it not what we are, but how we engage in the world that matters? So action or participation versus identity.
Reflecting on the distinction you've made between action or participation and identity really helps me to better understand Eating in Public's practice as advancing a certain politic and sort of de-emphasizing a position that is rooted in identity.
You know, I was trained as a photographer, and I think that photographs are shorthand for how we understand reality, and that's how language works, and that's how also identity works. But these shorthands are often very dangerous because it doesn't really, it blinds us to what's there. So I hope by providing people information about how they can actually eat from what's around them, they can go outside their house or apartment and then see the same patch they see every day and experience something very different because they have different information. This one is purslane. You can taste this one too.
The whole thing?
Yeah, the top, yeah.
How has eating in public's practice been impacted by and responded to the recent context of an ongoing global pandemic, widespread economic collapse, and energetic social unrest?
Knowledge about edible weeds is really timely for the current moment. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us more aware about vulnerabilities. We see in stark terms how precarious our lives are when we are entirely dependent on global trade and supply chains. As the shortages of COVID-19 tests and PPE demonstrate, capitalism pits us against each other and resources always go to the highest bidder. However, this moment can also be an opening to recognize our connectivities. Weeds have been given a bad reputation, but they are a spectacular movable feast. By weeds, I'm not referring to pot, but the regular herbaceous plants that grow everywhere where no one planted them. Your auntie's backyard, by the sidewalk, parking lots, parks, etc. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, weeds are plants that are not valued for their use nor their beauty. Plants that grow wild and strong, so wild and strong that they can take over the growth of what some call superior vegetation, meaning those you can buy at garden stores and supermarkets. There are many weeds that are edible, and many of them taste really good. We're rarely informed about this because being able to get stuff for free is really bad for capitalism. Freedom from capitalism begins when we diminish our reliance on it.
Eating in public moves fluidly between different spaces. Projects spread out online through social media platforms and pop up curbside in residential and commercial zones. What is that sort of like for you, managing online and IRL environments?
There's a group on Facebook called 808 Green Thumbs that I've become quite active in. And I have used this group to activate to kind of talk about edible weeds, you know, the reasons that I stated before, but also that they're so incredibly like passionate about growing things. And so there are thousands of people on there, and they're total beginners, and people have been doing it for decades. And so I started the freeze store after COVID because this group already had a politics of sharing. Like they did swaps, plant swaps, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year or something like that. And because of COVID, they stopped doing them. So I thought, okay, but this is perfect. Like, let's do a plant-free store. So I started one, and it was very enthusiastic because growers often end up with too much.
Sure.
And many of us don't want to throw anything away. And so I just do whatever it seems the easiest to do within my extremely time-consuming methods. So it's like if I have something to give away, it's like, how can I get it done the fastest way and get it away from me, you know? Last week, someone dropped off a crock pot and a big box of glass jars in front of my house, and I'm like, oh God. Okay, so I know that it will take a while for someone to come by who would want a crock pot. So obviously the online environment is much better.
Sure.
So I was able to find a taker within 15 minutes. So if you have a plant-free store and people know that it's there, they can just come and go and check back. And so there are people that just drive by and say, what's there today?
Not today. Yeah.
Let's see.
How has the neighborhood responded to eating in public's actions in the area?
Except for many conflicts like, Gaye, can you tell the people to not park in the street? You know, they've been pretty receptive. They brought things, and there are neighbors that come frequently to see what's shown up. They think it's funny, and they think it's weird, and they like getting free stuff.
Do you know everyone that frequents the free store?
No, I don't. I know very few people, but then even those people I didn't know before.
We've talked before about the importance of kind of the stranger.
Yeah.
Maybe you could speak a little bit about why the stranger is important to eating in public.
Right. The stranger, as I think more and more about it, is the most important thing. And I think it relates to what we were talking about earlier about what we see and what we don't see. One of our earlier free store was at the University of Hawaii. So like, let's say we imagine a university, we imagine students and we imagine professors. But once there's a free store, you realize the people who use it are the community members. Well, I hate that word too. The people who just come to campus to walk their dogs, to jog, to just use the library or whatever. And there are the staff members who are trying to clean their office, and there are houseless people who come to the university at night to sleep, and they're the custodians, and all of a sudden like it makes all these people visible, and those are the people that it takes for the free store to thrive.
Yeah.
And when we first started free stores, there not infrequently people would say, well, you should only help the people who need. And Nandita and I, no, we're insistent that it has to be completely horizontal. So the whole thing about free store serves the naughty and the nice. You can be like the most horrible CEO, exploitive person, and they can use a free store. So I want to tell one story, is that for a while at the free store at the university, frozen chicken would show up. And then there would be conversations like, oh my God, who left frozen chicken at the free store? Is it botulism? We should throw it away. No, it's so wasteful. What should we do? Are you going to eat it? So who's going to eat it? So actually it's because of the frozen chicken that we started the free fridge for perishables. But then one day I saw Loy, who's one of the houseless people that we know, with frozen chicken. I said, what are you doing, Loy? You're leaving chicken there. He goes, yeah, because I don't have a house, and I get this from the food bank, so I thought I would share.
Yeah.
So so it really demonstrates how it's totally horizontal, and it's not a charity. The free store is not a charity. It's trying to create the world that we want to live in together, and that the stranger the free store demonstrates that we actually need all the strangers. Strangers are not people that we should be afraid of. They're the people who leave you good things, including frozen chicken.
Yeah. As I imagine Loy and the frozen chicken and bacteria, I find myself wondering about the kinds of relationships that the free store supports. And how does that inform eating in public's practice?
So I think that this is a good opportunity to talk about relational practice. And so like a painter, they could use paint to explore a whole lot of different things, like the quality of light or abstraction or a political topic. A relational artist do the same thing. So Eating in Public is a relational project, and the point is to implement infrastructures or systems that people that engage in it, whether they know they're engaging in it or not, get to have a chance of rethinking their relationship with each other, with the space, and maybe with the system that we all are a part of. Because I think that Eating in Public is a bit of a hacker, that it's just, we want to put it there just to, be a surprise and be a bit annoying and just have you be confounded and confused and like, what is it? And it's always an opportunity to put in a place of something that people don't expect, and then they have to figure out first what it is and whether it's something that serves them.
In thinking about the way that Eating in Public thrives on relationship, does Eating in Public have an aesthetic?
It has multiple aesthetics, I think. Because as an artist, I'm very interested in instructional media. Because if you put a weed out there and people can't tell what it is, then I'm not serving my own goal. So I think that the aesthetics drives from, first and foremost, functionality. So it should look like something that people know what it is initially, but it doesn't work quite the same way that they are accustomed to. So immediately there's decipherability and there's confusion or doubt. So I really I'm always trying to navigate that space effectively, and I'm trying to say as little as possible so that people have to figure things out on their own, so it's not very clear. And so sometimes I get irritated because it's like people are digging out my plants, which is not what I intend, but I don't want to put a sign that says, don't dig out the plants.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about sort of allowing the function to drive the aesthetic decisions that you're making. And that is also political.
Yes.
So maybe, can you speak a little bit more about the underlying politics of the aesthetic decisions that you are or are not making?
So I think that unlike very often in schools, it's just a forest of signs. Don't do this, don't do that, turn off the water, turn off the lights, use only one paper towel. Don't touch this, don't touch that, make sure you wash this for 5 minutes. So, and then, it's a forest of signs, so when no one sees a sign, it's just become the space of being indoctrinated into God knows what. So Eating in Public's work is to engage an active being, so like what we were talking about before, to create a space where they feel alive, that they have to make a decision about who they are in this space and how to do what they want to do. Take, act without shame, leave, share without condition, whatever's, trust without apology. I think it's kind of what the aesthetic aims to do. I'm not happy with the fact that I had to put a sign up that says, don't park in the street. Like, that just seems like, really? It offends me.
Yeah, it's a dilemma, because you're facilitating a space of autonomy, sort of come and go as you wish, leave and take what you want. But then there are rules.
There are rules.
And sometimes there are rules that have to be made that you don't necessarily want to make or to implement, and least of all enforce. So how do you balance that?
It's very hard. It is a constant negotiation because it's always a surprise because I didn't think that would happen. The ancient practices of seed saving and sharing are currently under threat. Plants carefully cultivated by farmers the world over for millennia, skills and knowledge that belong to no one and everyone, are being claimed as inventions and patented by corporations with the support of nation states and the international bodies. Most of these patented seeds are genetically modified. To support corporations, states have made it illegal for everyone else to save and share patented seeds. With each seed lays a storehouse of knowledge, recalling the kinds of soil which it was grown, the amount of sun, rain, and nutrients that it requires, when to sprout, and when to bear fruit. Share seed stations can encourage the saving and sharing of non-genetically modified seeds, seeds that are free for everyone to grow and harvest, seeds that will produce more seeds to grow again, year after year after year. And these seeds is the hope of life. So I think I would like you to ask me, is this art?
Okay. Ready? We're good? So is this art?
I think that yes, because I say so. But it's a question that I think it's just really hard. I wonder if it's useful to ask. So I think what's more important to me is that I've been trained as an artist for many, many years, and I think I come with experience and skills that help me engage in this project that is someone that do not have that kind of experience and training do not. So I think that we ask different questions. You know, like the conversation about the signage is infinitely interesting to an artist that in a different way than like some of my collaborators would say. They would just say, make another sign. I'm like, no, no. And they're like, why? Yeah, so I think that the art part is such a crucial part of the project, but it's not important to me that people see it as an art project. In fact, I think it works better when they don't. It's important to know that in the Commons, we're not required to like each other. We just have to recognize that we all need each other to survive. That's a big difference between the Commons and I think, you know, this abstract idea of community where people are supposed to, like, you know, be harmonious. The Commons don't require that.
I try to avoid using the word community. The way that it's usually carted out these days is to bring a group of people together or imagine a group of people together who are similar based on how we've been racialized or gendered or some such thing. And by that gesture, it means that there are people who are a part of that community and there are people who are outside of it. People that we're supposed to somehow care about and people who we don't and sometimes even fear. Eating in public presumes that we start out all as strangers to each other. And that we are in it together and we need each other to survive. In the real world today, all border-making practices are imaginary. It somehow has led a lot of us to believe that they're supposed to protect us. But of course it doesn't, because the climate crisis doesn't care. Viruses don't care.
Where are we?
We're at Thomas Square, which is located across the street from the Honolulu Museum of Art, where I currently work. And we are in the grassy area near some of the planters where we intend to grow some food.
Marlene has been really talking about those planters forever.
I've been obsessed with the planters because I would walk by them every day in between meetings from one campus to the other. And I felt that, you know, it would be a great way to provide a food source for the community if we could grow things in there.
What's the current function of the planters?
It seemed that it was put there to prevent people from camping on the sidewalk. And these were both houseless people and Occupy, protesters of the Occupy movement who've been there off and on since 2011. So I think that that history is really interesting for the project too, because the whole Occupy movement is about, you know, equity in society as well.
I'm reminded of the way that the Occupy movement adapted to the environment in Hawaii, rebranding itself as the De-Occupy movement. This is especially significant, given the history of the park. So in 1843, Kamehameha Kolu, Kauikeaoli, commemorated the restoration of sovereignty to the Hawaiian kingdom on these grounds, and named this place after the admiral that helped to bring an end to illegal British occupation of Hawaii. This āina has served many political purposes over the years, and in this sense, Eating in Public's potential engagement with the area can be understood as another action in an ongoing event.
Laulani Teal, who's very active in Food Not Bomb and also part of the Occupy/De-Occupy movement, I was asking her about the planters, like when they showed up, and she said it showed up, after the protests as a way to deter the presence of the protesters and the houseless movement. And she said that because they put in what they call the pink hibiscus planters, but they died because no one would water the plants. So she decided, well, why don't I just cultivate the weeds that were already there? And I think that the presence of the amaranth and the purslane we found could have been progeny of her handiwork.
Yeah, there is something about the idea of replanting a planter that was placed to displace houseless. That is really powerful.
Whether you're just passing through on your way to somewhere else, or you're in need, this repurposing of forgotten city ordinance objects now literally contains the ability to benefit anyone and everyone of this place.
I think that the discussion about the relevance of museums and artistic practice is a question that museums and galleries are asking across the board. So she invited me to do to enact a free store at the Nano Gallery at the Honolulu Museum Art School. When was this? January of 2020?
2020, yes.
Yeah, which was quite successful almost immediately.
So in late summer and early fall, you folks collaborated on a series of short educational videos as part of Eating in Public's ongoing work with edible weeds.
Yeah.
Marlene, you want to tell us a little bit about what inspired that project and how it unfolded?
Sure. The edible weed videos were actually in conjunction with the free store. As Gaye mentioned, it opened in January 2020, and then everything changed and COVID-19 happened, and the museum had to actually shut down for a while, and we really wanted to have a continuation of that free store live on, even though the physical building was closed. So we started to talk about the importance of free, and that could also apply to the free exchange of ideas and the free exchange of knowledge and skills. And it just seemed like a perfect segue to create these educational films that we could release as part of the free store, on how people can grow their own food or forage.
I just harvested these plants around my street from left to right. You have oxalis, young leaves and flowers, followed by laukahi, then ivy gourd shoots, peppergrass, and purslane. When harvesting, it's really important to remember that you only take what you need. Never take more than a third, because you want to leave some for other beings, human and otherwise. And you also want to leave enough for the plants so that it can regrow. And there you are. Salad ready to go. Of course, you can top off with store-bought stuff or other garden produce like tomatoes, mint, etc. Add feta cheese and your favorite dressing. So Marlene learned how to edit and sound and video, and I had to be the videographer, the director, and the actor, all on my phone. Like, so it's just like really funny and crazy,
Whether people saw these videos as a form of entertainment while isolated in their homes, or the promotion of a new hobby in gardening and foraging, or it fueling honest conversations about rethinking and re-envisioning food sources and sustainability, it was a way for us to help and connect while we were all feeling helpless and isolated.
and so I really enjoyed the challenges, and you know, as they say all the time, every crisis is an opportunity.
By shoving these videos in their face, it really, you know, kind of forced the audience to think of new ways to address food sustainability and accessibility, and just really start thinking outside of the box and what, you know, what we're used to living, the circumstances that we're used to living with, and how, you know, maybe it's not working for us anymore.
You know, so I think that it's just when things change in such a radical way, you're open to thinking about things differently because you're forced to.
Yeah.
Our ideas are not original. Join us if you want, or better yet, take our ideas and run with them as far, smart, and fast as you possibly can.